Hello everyone, I am Neelakash Bishwas. I am a recent graduate from Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur. I was enrolled in the 5 years integrated BTech and MTech course in aerospace engineering, and I recently finished up my courses. So in normal times, I receive a lot of queries from students regarding the preparation strategy, the question pattern in JEE Advanced, and how the questions compare with other engineering entrance examinations, and also some questions regarding your life in IITs and what are the future prospects when you join an IIT. So I will try to cover some of these aspects in today's video, and I hope that some of the information I will provide in this video will be helpful to some of the students. Okay, so without any further delay, let's get started. Okay, so here I have tabulated the details of three most important exams that students from West Bengal normally appear for. These are West Bengal Joint, or abbreviated as WBJEE. Then we have JEE Mains, a lot of students appear for JEE Mains, and we have JEE Advanced at the top. So let's compare the seats. How many seats do they offer? So under West Bengal Joint, there are almost 34,000 seats available, as I found in the internet, and through JEE Mains in the NITs we have around 20,000 seats available, combining everything, all the streams, and in IITs we have around 11,000 seats available. So how many students apply for a seat through these examinations? So if we consider WBJE, there are almost on an average around 1,20,000 students appearing each year for this examination. For JEE Mains, the number is around 10 lakhs. That's huge. However, the time I appeared for this exam, the total number of applicants were around 15 lakhs, but recently it has reduced to around 10 lakhs. JEE Advanced, so in JEE Advanced we have two papers. That is, we have to first qualify JEE Mains, then only we can appear for the advanced paper. Okay, so originally the number of people who apply for JEE Mains are the actual people who also apply for JEE Advanced, in my opinion. So 10 lakh students are again applying. Actually they are willing to appear for JEE Advanced, but only around 1,60,000 who can qualify for, who can clear the JEE Mains paper are eligible to appear for the JEE Advanced paper. Okay, so this is the first round of shorting. So rest of the people are sorted out, and only 1,60,000 people can appear for JEE Advanced. Then let's then compare the acceptance rate of these exams. So based on the total number of application and total number of seats available, the acceptance rate for West Bengal Joint is around 28.3%. JEE Mains, the acceptance rate is around 2% if we calculate using this 20,000 seats and 10 lakhs applicants, which is very low, 2%. For JEE Advanced, if we take the original number of applicants, that is 10 lakhs who actually registered for the JEE Mains first paper, then the acceptance rate is even lower, is around 1.1%. Okay, and if we take the number of students who actually write the JEE Advanced paper, then from that 6.9% students are able to get a seat on an average. Okay, so it's very difficult, you can see. So what is the date of exams? So in my time, West Bengal Joint was held in, I think, in April, but this year I found that they have preponed it to February, and I am not very sure if they are the same trend will continue in future or not. JEE Mains, they have introduced something new. So now JEE Mains is conducted twice a year. So the first one is conducted in January. In my time it was only conducted in April, so we only had one opportunity to write the test. So now people have two opportunities. So they can either write the test in January, or they can appear for it in April. So, or you can apply for both the papers of JEE Mains. Then if you apply for both, the best of the two will be taken. So if someone does very well in January itself, then he or she might feel that okay, I don't have to appear for the other paper, I have already got satisfactory results. Okay, so when JEE Mains results are out, so then the first round of sorting is done. Then the sorted people, that is 1,60,000 who are selected through JEE Mains, they can appear for JEE Advanced. JEE Advanced examination is held in May. Syllabus for all the exams is same, class 11 and 12, although JEE Advanced has a lot of extra things which is not covered in our board syllabus. Number of papers. So West Bengal Joint has 2 papers, JEE Mains has one paper, and JEE Advanced has 2 papers. So what are these 2 papers and 1 papers, I will discuss. So the marks, paper 1 in West Bengal Joint, that is only maths. So in paper 1 only math questions are asked and it has 100 marks. Paper 2 consists of questions from physics and chemistry, so 50 and 50 each for physics and chemistry, making it 100 again. So both the paper, they have 100 marks each, and they are conducted I think between these 2 papers you will get 1 hour or 1.5 hour, I am not very I don't remember exactly, but I think 1 hour gap will be there before the between these 2 papers, and total marks will be 200, and total test time will be 2 plus 2 4 hours, and there will be 1 hour gap in between. I think JEE Mains is evenly distributed, that is unlike West Bengal Joint where maths is 100 and other 2 are 50-50. Here in JEE Mains all the subjects carry equal marks. Maths is 120, physics is 120, chemistry is 120, making it total 360. There are total 90 questions, 30 in each section, for maths 30, physics 30 and so on, and all the questions carry equal marks, 4 marks for all the questions, making it 4 into 90, 360. Total time you get is 3 hours. JEE Advanced is quite different. In JEE Advanced, like JEE Main, all the 3 subjects have equal weightage. So math, physics and chemistry, they have equal weightage, but how much marks are attributed to each of the section is not very rigid. It changes from year to year. So for example, I appeared for the exam in 2015, and to our surprise, the paper 1 itself had 260 marks, and paper 2 I think had 244 or something like that, making it total 504 marks combining paper 1 and paper 2. So it's very hard to say what will be the total marks, but what you can expect that the total marks will be divisible by 6, and each of the paper will have something like 3x marks. The x can be anything. Okay, and total time is 3 plus 3, 6 hours. So what all IITs do we have in India? So I have listed down the older IITs based on their year of establishment. So IIT Kharagpur is the oldest one. It was established in 1951. Subsequently came IIT Bombay, then IIT Madras, IIT Kanpur, IIT Delhi around the same time. So by IITs and the brand that IITs have created, that is largely due to these 5 older IITs, because of the kind of students they have produced, because of the kind of research they have produced, and that they are very highly acknowledged by professors or recruiters across the world. And about the mid generation IITs, we have IIT Guwahati, established in 1994, and IIT Roorkee in 2001. It was named as IIT. So these are, although these are a bit newer IITs, but I feel that in terms of quality of research or teaching quality or kind of professors they have, they are pretty much comparable with any of these 5 old IITs. So I have clubbed them together as old IITs. We have the newer IITs that were established very recently, after 2008 for instance, or were acknowledged as IITs very recently. So we have IIT Ropar, IIT Bhubaneswar, IIT Gandhinagar, and so on. So among these, IIT BHU and IIT IISM Dhanbad, they are old institutes, but I think they have recently been recognized as IITs, and they are also doing very good work. And among the actually newly established IITs, I think IIT Hyderabad is doing really good work, and others are also developing, and they are developing their infrastructure very fast, and within a few years, I think within 10 years or 15 years down the line, they will be very good institutes. Okay. So here I have compared the QS world ranking of the best universities in India, the top 8 universities in India. You can see that among the top 8 universities in India, there are 7 IITs, and there is IISc the second place. So first is IIT Bombay. IIT Bombay has world rank around 170. IISc comes at around 180. Then comes IIT Delhi with a global rank around 190. Okay. So although all these universities are the top universities in India, you can see that in terms of global ranking, they have a lot to do. Okay. So now let's compare the engineering ranking based on QS again in the world. So the previous world ranking, that was based on all the disciplines, but in terms of engineering ranking, you can see that the institutes, the IITs especially, they are doing really good in terms of engineering, and that's what they are actually meant to do. So engineering, in terms of engineering ranking, you can see that IIT Bombay is now within 50, and it has a rank around, I think 44 or something, I don't remember exactly. Then comes IIT Delhi, which is very close. Then we have IIT Kharagpur, IIT Madras and Kanpur, and IISc around the same level. Okay. And we have IIT Roorkee and Guwahati after that. So again the 8 universities remain the same, but you can see that IISc, which was second based on overall ranking, has now slipped to 6th position. So you can sense that IISc has very good faculty and very good environment for research in basic science especially, but IITs, the top IITs might just be a better choice for engineering in my opinion. So why study in IITs? So what benefits do IIT provide? So without a doubt, IITs are the best engineering universities in India. They offer the best placement opportunities in India. They have one of the best research facilities and funding from the government. They offer best undergraduate research experience. So as an undergraduate at any of the IITs, you'll have a lot of opportunities to join some lab for some short term projects or something, and there will be plenty of opportunities for you to learn from either PhD students, master students, or from the directly from the professors. And there are a lot of research groups that are operating independently, so there also you can learn from other disciplines, okay, not only from your discipline, from other disciplines. Then the professors are very good. They have PhD degrees from top universities across the world. They will teach you, and IITs have a huge alumni network. So if you are going to start something after you graduate from IIT, you will not be short of support. IITs are also highly recognized in well developed countries like the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, Germany, and so on. So you might have an upper hand when you are trying to apply for PhDs or masters abroad. Then they might prefer to have students from IITs because of the brand and the recognition they have created, not only in India but also in other developed countries. Also, IITs provide a multicultural environment like none other universities in India. This is absolutely my personal opinion. Some might disagree with this, but the kind of multicultural environment the IITs provide is, in my opinion, is unparalleled. So you have a lot of societies, lot of cultural societies, especially I have seen in IIT Kharagpur, a lot of things. You'll have a lot of opportunities to develop your other skills, not just academics. Okay. Okay, so let's compare the relative seats offered by different IITs. Okay, so here I have plotted the total number of seats offered by different IITs. The total number of seats by all IITs is already shown that it was around 11,000, and you can see that among all the IITs, IIT Kharagpur offers around 1600 seats. IIT BHU comes second, which offers around 1300 something seats. Then comes IIT Roorkee, Bombay, Delhi, Kanpur, Madras, and so on. So you can see that IIT Kharagpur offers the biggest number of seats, the largest number of seats, and this is partly because it also offers the most number of courses. Okay, and it has the most number of departments. Now let's talk about the seat reservation and the qualifying marks for each of the category. So for generals, 40.5% seats are reserved in all the departments at all the IITs, and if someone is general EWS, he or she will have 10% seats reserved. So EWS stands for economically weaker section. So to belong to the economically weaker section, you have to have your annual income less than 8 lakhs per annum or 8 lakhs per year. Then comes OBC NCL. NCL stands for non-creamy layer, which again requires you to be earning your family members to be earning less than 8 lakhs per annum. Then comes SC and ST, who have around 15% and 7.5% of the seats reserved for them respectively. Then, so for all these categories, how much aggregate cutoff marks is there? So how much minimum you have to score in order to just qualify? But this does not mean that you will have a seat in any of the IITs. For having a seat, you might have to score a bit more than this cutoff marks. This is just cutoffs. So for general it is around 35%, then it reduces 31.5, 31.5, and for SCs and STs it is around almost half of that required from general. It is around 17.5%. So this might sound that 17.5% is too less. It's nothing. 17.5% is very easy, and anyone can score 17.5% if they appear for it, but that is not true. 17.5% is still quite difficult, and to achieve this much you have to put a good amount of effort. Okay, then even if you clear the aggregate cutoff, you might not be able to see it in the seat allocation process if you don't clear the subject wise cutoff. So you also have to you not only have to clear the aggregate cutoff, you also have to clear the subject wise cutoff. So in each of the subjects, physics, chemistry and math, you have to clear the individual cutoffs, which is around 10% for general, then 9%, and reduces to 5% for SCs and STs. So these are on an average statistics, and these might change from year to year based on changes in difficulty of the question paper. Okay, so now how much marks do I have to score in order to get certain rank? So this is a very common question. So here you can see what I have done is that I have plotted the aggregate marks in percentage with general rank, and the x-axis is in a semi-log. It is a semi-log plot. I have done this to make it look good. So if someone does not know how to read this graph, so here your x-axis starts with 10 power 0, which is nothing but 1. Then the second tick is 2 into 10 power 0, that is 2. Then 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 10. Then the next tick is 20, 30, 40, so on up to 100, and then 200, 300, 400, 1000, and so on. So here you can see that the curves are wildly varying. So that means that in each of the years, 2018, which is blue, then 17, 16, 15. 15 is incidentally the year where I passed, when I appeared for JEE Advanced. So you can see that the difficulty level changes significantly with year. So only up to 20,000 I have shown the ranks, because that's what IITs publish. Then you can see that in my year, that is green, my rank was around 3686. So and I scored around 44%. So you can see that in this 44%, if I had appeared for the test in a later year, for example in 2017, then my rank would have been somewhere around 15,000. So you can sense that 2015 paper was quite hard and 2017 paper was relatively much easier. Okay, and cutoff also, you can see that here cutoff is also much higher, it is around 40%. Okay, and all these are for general category. Now let's talk about the ranks required to get a particular stream in different IITs. So let's talk about BTech Computer Science, which is the most preferred stream nowadays in all the IITs. And here I have shown the ranks required for different categories. So general EWS, OBC, SC, ST, and so you can see, let's focus on the general rank trend first. You can see that IIT Bombay, the blue one, has cut off the closing rank for general is around 63, then it increases with other IITs. IIT Delhi is around 100, then Kanpur, Kharagpur, Madras is around the same as that was in Kanpur, then comes Roorkee and Guwahati. And you can see for OBC NCL, the red one, it might seem that okay, OBCs, how can OBCs require a lesser rank than the general rank? So this OBC rank is only based on the total number of OBC students that appeared in the exam. So among them, this rank is shown among all the OBC students. This is not the general rank of a OBC student, that is higher. Okay, and same goes to all other curves. So you can see the preference is more or less the same. Everyone is preferring IIT Bombay over anything else. Then IIT Kanpur, Kharagpur and Madras is more or less having the same kind of preference. Then and IIT Delhi and Bombay are at the top of the list, and then at the end comes IIT Roorkee and Guwahati. Now let's talk about the female students, which I did not discuss till now. So nowadays IITs have introduced some supernumerary seats for female students. So it means that what supernumerary means is that there will be some extra amount of seats will be reserved for female students, but it does not mean that, say there are 65 seats for IIT Bombay Computer Science. Now this 20% from this year, this does not mean that 20% of that 65 seats will be reserved for females. That will make other students furious. Okay, so they have added extra seats. So along with 65, there will be 20% of 65 more seats available for female students, so that they can accommodate female students. They can they can improve the male to female ratio in these IITs. Normally the male to female ratio in IITs is terrible. In my year I have seen that the male to female ratio in IIT Kharagpur is somewhere around 1:13. So in order to improve that, they have tried to introduce this thing, and you can see that the ranks for females due to these supernumerary seats is much for a larger rank they can avail the same department, same stream they can get into. So here you can see that general female is blue. The rank required to get into IIT Bombay Computer Science is around, I think, 300, close to 300, where it was 63 for general neutral. Okay, so and again for other classes, other categories also, the rank can be significantly higher for females. Still they can get into a particular department. Okay, which is good for females, but boys might be angry. Now let's talk about different departments and their closing ranks across different IITs. So here I have only shown a few departments, but there are also other departments which I could not accommodate in the single plot. So it starts with computer science, that is, which is shown by red star, and you can see it is very close to the 0 y equals to 0 axis, y equals to 0 line. So very low rank is required at all the IITs for computer science, which is expected obviously. Then the second most preferred stream is electrical or electronics, though electrical is shown by red squares. Then comes electronics, which is black circles. So you can see that electrical is almost everywhere in all the IITs, but black circles, that is electronics is only there in 3 of the top IITs, in IIT Guwahati, IIT Roorkee and IIT Kharagpur. They have separate electronics. Elsewhere I think electronics is coupled with electrical, it is the same department. Then the fourth most preferred is mechanical. Mechanical is almost everywhere, shown by the blue triangle. Then chemical and aerospace are more or less having a similar kind of preferences, okay, among students. So they are preferring, they are having similar preferences. Here you can see for Kanpur it has almost the same preference, same closing rank. Kharagpur also it is close, Madras also it is close, and Bombay also it is close. Aerospace is slightly behind due to slightly lesser placement opportunities, I would say, compared to chemical, but both are equally interesting streams. Then comes civil engineering, which is slightly lagging behind then chemical and aerospace. Then comes biotech towards the end, which you can get into with a later ranks. But biotech also has a lot of interesting things, and especially nowadays you can sense the importance of biotech when there is a pandemic situation, and you can now understand that the biotech guys are very important in our society, and this trend might change from now. Okay. So some people, they don't know that IITs also have basic science department, like they have departments of chemistry, physics, some have engineering physics departments, and some also offer math or MNC courses or mathematics and computing courses. So they are also very good departments in India. So and so their relative closing ranks you can see for mathematics or MNC. I have shown in blue circles. So mathematics or MNC is the most preferred rank among all this, preferred department among all this, you can see. And then comes engineering physics. Engineering physics is not offered in all the IITs, it is offered in IIT Bombay, IIT Madras, IIT Roorkee and IIT Guwahati, as I found. Then comes physics. Physics is different from engineering physics, course wise slightly different, and it is pure physics is offered in IIT Kanpur. In IIT Kharagpur we have a department, it is there in IIT Madras, and it is also there in IIT Roorkee. Chemistry is there in Bombay. Surprising that IIT Bombay does not offer physics. Okay, it offers engineering physics. So chemistry is there in Bombay, chemistry is there in Kanpur, Kharagpur and Roorkee. Okay. Okay, so the next most important question is, what happens after someone joins IIT? So I can tell from my own experience at IIT Kharagpur. At IIT Kharagpur, in the first year of study, all the students from all the departments, they have the common same courses. Okay, there are 2 semesters, one is called the physics semester, one is called the chemistry semester, and all the students across all the departments in their first year, they are distributed in different sections, and there are around 14 to 15 sections, and they study the same subjects. Okay, and at the end of the first year, based on your cumulative grade point average or CGPA, you will have an opportunity to change your department, which is called a department change or DEPC. So it might happen that after JEE Advanced, you might be able to join in some of the IITs, but you might not be very satisfied with the stream you have got in IITs. So this is a very good opportunity for those students to work hard, bring a very good high CGPA, and to try to change their department to the desired department. Okay, so historically it has not been a very difficult process to change one's department. to change, to be eligible to apply for department change, students have to have a minimum CGPA of 8.5 out of 10, after which they can apply for department change at the end of their first year. And here you can see the number of students who are getting a department change after their first year in different years. So 2015 the number was total number was around 66, then in 2016 it increased to 103. So it was my year when 103 people changed their departments, then it increased further in the subsequent years, and in 2020 around 159 students changed their department after first year. So what are the other requirements apart from the 8.5 CGPA criteria? So there is a incoming threshold. There is no outgoing threshold as such. Many students from a particular department can apply for the branch change. There is no threshold on that only this many students from a particular department can apply for a branch change, but there is an incoming threshold. That is, for example, there are many students who want to join computer science department from other departments, but there is incoming threshold in computer science department that only 10% of the current number of students, say at Kharagpur computer science has 100 students, so only 10 more students, that is 10% of 110, 10 more students will be allowed to join the department through department change. So that makes things quite competitive, and especially these branches like computer science and electronics, etc. These are very hard to get through department change, and you might have to have a CGPA around 9.8 or 9.7 plus for computer science and 9.5 plus for electronics and like that. So it's quite a tough process, but still it is doable. And for other departments like mechanical might be around 9, and chemical or aerospace, these might be around 8.6 or 7 or 8 like that. So those departments you can get if you work a bit hard, but for computer science and electronics we have to put a lot of efforts. Now here is the statistics from 2020 showing how many students changed their department and how many students came into a particular department. I mean, how many students went out of the department and how many students came into the department. You can see in aerospace, EE stands for EE 4-year course, AE dual stands for AE dual degree course, that is my course 4-year, BTech and MTech integrated. So you can see for aerospace 5 students, purple is outgoing, 5 students went to other departments, 4 students came in, then 4 students came into the dual degree course and 1 student went out. Then in agricultural engineering, no student came in and everyone went out, 13 students. And here in computer science, what is computer science? Here in computer science you can see 6 students came in to the BTech course and 4 students came into the dual degree course. In electronics you can see 15 students coming into the department and 3 students going out, maybe they are going to computer science obviously. And in mechanical also, in mechanical actually highest number of students coming in, 19 students, and 11 students going out. They might also be going to other higher departments like electronics, computer science and so on. Not sure about that. So that's it, but it's pretty much doable if someone works hard, and department change might actually be a good option for someone who really wants to change their department. So I will finish with a few more advices and some more information about my department, aerospace engineering at IIT Kharagpur. So one thing which everyone should understand is that although everyone who all are coming to IITs, they all have cleared IIT JEE, claim to be the toughest exam in the world, but again when students come into IITs, again the performance envelope again is resembles a bell curve. So only few students do well, most of the students fall somewhere in between, and there are also few students who are unable to perform well due to some reason. This could be due to the fact that some students I have seen, they feel that by clearing JEE Advanced they have done everything, they have nothing more to achieve, and also it could be due to the fact that some students come from preparation levels which are not up to the mark, so they lag behind when they join any of the IITs, and not everyone becomes very successful towards the even after studying in IITs. And so you can see here I have shown the performance of students in my department after 4 years. This is not very accurate, but this is kind of a estimate from my own knowledge of my friends' performance. So you can see that the performance is again very similar to a bell curve. Okay. So you can see the most of the students in my department is having a CGPA around 7 to 7.5. Few students are here having CGPA less than 6. Few students are there having CGPA higher than 8.5. Okay. So the students who have higher CGPA 8.5 to 10, they normally, most of the students in that range, they try to go for PhDs or masters abroad, and the students who are having CGPA around say 7.5 to 9, they mostly prefer to go for core jobs. By core job I mean a job that is directly related or say mostly related to what we have been studying in the past 4 or 5 years at IIT Kharagpur. Then comes non-core jobs which are not directly related to what we have been studying, or you can say it is not directly related to aerospace engineering, but in non-core jobs also there are very high profile jobs and high paid jobs student get, and the students who are having CGPA even lower, less than 6 for example, they face trouble, and because of their low CGPA even in placements they have trouble. Okay. So the final message is that even after clearing JEE Advanced, not all students do very well because of many reasons, and to everyone who is planning to appear for the exams, my personal advice would be take this exam and this opportunity just as an opportunity, that it's a new door that is opening for all of you who are clearing this exam, and there is a lot more to achieve after clearing JEE Advanced. It's no way the end of your achievement, or it's not the final achievement in your life, and there are a lot more to achieve, and it just JEE Advanced just opens up a door for you, and we have to keep your hard work going, and we have to again study harder, and there are a lot of things to achieve after JEE Advanced. So good luck to everyone who is planning to appear for JEE Advanced, and I hope I have provided some meaningful and important information to you which will help you in preparing your strategy, in choosing your department. And if you like the video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button.